All right, y'all. We are here, season two, excuse me, of that JUCO Life. This is Jaquan Bowden here, and we have a special guest to kick off season two. This man, when it comes to JUCO basketball, this is the man that is a huge part of it. His platform has helped many players, and I mean a lot of players reach the JUCO ranks, and many of them are playing D1. Um, he lives up to his company's name for real. Like he, you can see him go on many rants about how maybe sleeping on JUCO players. He provides history. He's a humanitarian. We're gonna learn a lot about this guy today. Um, I'm make sure I didn't miss anything here, but I want to welcome my special guest here on that JUCO Life, Brandon Goble of JUCO Advocate. What's going on, Brandon?
Hey, I appreciate you having me on, man.
Appreciate you coming on. I mean, it's kind of crazy. Like we were saying, before we started recording, I basically said that I was trying to get you on the show since season one. So, I think the contest with Surikata Jawara, shout out to him. We're gonna talk about him later. You know, that whole thing came about. I didn't expect to win this thing right here, man. I didn't expect to win the NBA Jam Machine here due to that. I only wanted to do it just to show love to Surikata, and I was like, wow, it was just like destiny. You know what I'm saying? Like, it just happened out of nowhere. So pleasure to have you here, man. How's everything right now?
It's good. It's good. I mean, just kind of hunkered down and watching a lot of stuff on film and watching a lot of live streams and just kind of hanging out and planning and, getting ready to hopefully kick off 21 in the second half of the year, maybe, and go from there.
Yes, sir. And I hope to kick it off as well. I usually cover high school basketball and college basketball here in the area. I covered two games thus far. Two Seton Hall games thus far.
Hmm.
I can tell you, no fans and high school basketball in New York State should be happening with under a few circumstances on February 1st. It just been announced. Um, and of course, no local JUCO action here
Yep.
in New York City. I do think some JUCOs upstate will be having a season, but not so much here in downstate. Monroe College, prominent JUCO here, just canceled
Yep.
season. CUNY's JUCOs they canceled their season as well as certain SUNYs. So it's a real unfortunate thing for our local JUCO players here in the New York City area. So let's just start things off, man. We always start this off with playing career. So like tell us, where did you grow up, where you from, and what was your playing career like?
My playing career was really short. I figured out real quick that I have certain skills involved in basketball, and very few of them have to do with making a shot. I was an athlete, though. I was a college water polo player.
Okay.
And that was really my strength, things that were in the water. I was an Air Force brat. I grew up kind of all over the world, and so I think a lot of that has influenced kind of my comfort level with traveling and going out in the world and seeing new things and trying new things and things like that. But um my involvement in basketball really took off, more kind of on the academic side, with doing analytics and things like that. Like my first real foray into basketball was working for a Division 1 program, helping with scout, helping with analytics reports, helping with breaking things down like that. I kind of got into it because of the math side of it, and found that not only did I have a penchant for the science behind some of the basketball, but obviously the just the analytics, the analysis piece, in regards to players. And it really all just kind of started, with one guy. who's currently our logo, Solomon Heine. And I had met him when I was working, and this kid came in and said, hey, I want to try and walk on here at this D1 school, and they weren't really looking at walk-ons or anything. So I said, well, I'll work you out and film you. And so had Dwight Smith, who's now currently an assistant at McCook, and Will Bell, who used to be a junior college player, work him out, and we filmed the thing, and we sent it down to a buddy of mine that was working at Midland Junior College, and he said, yeah, you can come walk on here. And so we did that, ended up starting, and just kind of helped him get recruited to Division I, and it just really kind of blew up from there. Spreadsheets and listing off players and watching film and establishing a lot of connections with guys like Daniel Poneman and Nils Dekow and guys like that are friends now, or that I work with now as well. And yeah, it just kind of turned into this thing that exploded.
Oh man, that's big. I mean, hey, one thing led to another. I mean, that's awesome. I mean, now you're big on I should say college basketball Twitter, and you're all over the timelines. You provide a lot of history. I learned a lot from what you tweet and stuff, and the experience shows. JUCO Advocate, when
Yep.
it started, what was your goals? What was the first few goals when you started started JUCO Advocate? And are you surprised that it has reached a high level there it is now?
Yeah, I mean, at first it was really just help as many kids as possible.
Right,
Like, Solomon was a great first experience into that world, because he was such a unique, cool story, who happened to be a really good basketball player too, which makes it easier for sure. But his story was so different and so unique that that was really kind of the part that I fell in love with. And you know it so it really was just help as many guys as possible. And it for sure became overwhelming quick. I mean, because there are so many kids that need help, that don't have somebody advocating for them.
right,
And then, just like now, I wish I could help everybody. I mean, I can't. I get 300-400 direct messages a day, and it's a little chaotic, but we stick by the principle of help as many as we can.
right.
um, and a big key to the thing as well is that we do it at no expense to kids. We'll never take a dollar from a kid for anything that we do for them. And um, so that's something that we've just kind of stuck by. And so what I think is interesting about it is, we've always approached things with a how can we do it different mindset. And here, probably in the next year or so, some people are going to really see some significantly different things that we're going to do, that people have never really done before. And so that will really kind of help keep our growth going. But I think that had a lot to do with why it grew so fast in the first place, was that we stepped in and said, okay, how can we do this differently? How can we help as many people as possible? How can we do it in a way that's equitable and fair to everybody,
Right.
regardless of your financial circumstances, or your background or anything like that? And that was unique. And so it kind of blew up. And yeah, I guess I was a little surprised at how fast things kind of took off. But it's like any other business. A lot of it has to do with your relationships and your commitment to those relationships, and your ability to be dynamic and adapt, in an ever-changing space. And I had that background, in 15 years of the corporate world. And so I started the company with other people that had corporate world background. um, and so that I think has served us well in being able to really kind of evaluate the landscape and find those niches and find those different areas that we can go into and excel.
Definitely. I mean, that's amazing. I think that when you talk about help as much kids as you can, I think that's the same message that I see others like, yourself, and then like there's local guys here in New York City that have helped a couple of players get opportunities that JUCO opportunities or post grad opportunities, like Coach Tom Tibby McTurnan. He's one guy we hope to have on our show one day. James Barrett.
Yep.
Shout out to James Barrett. That
James
JUCO.
Barrett's in Project Rise right now, actually, with us too. So,
Oh, nice, nice. Okay, so shout out to him. Happy birthday to James Barrett. His birthday was yesterday. He has some great things going on with his platform. Um, a lot of people. I mean, forgive me if I missed anyone, but people like them, they're like on the same page with you, trying to help as many players as they can. And I think that it's I think the country's kind of taking a lot more notice to JUCO basketball players.
mm-hmm.
I mean, because I could tell you, like, JUCO kind of gets frowned upon here in New York City, and I don't know why. Because I do my research heavy, and I speak to a lot of older players. There's been a lot of JUCO players from this city from way back.
Right.
One of the best the top basketball evaluators in high school basketball, Dan Irvin, who's from Queens, he was a JUCO product. New York guys like Rayful Austin,
mm-hmm.
Shane Woney, the dribbling machine. People, he was a JUCO guy.
Yeah.
He played against Sam Cassell back in the 90s. Eric Mobley, Jamal Tinsley, JUCO to NBA.
I think a lot of it has to do with the way that junior college operates, right? So New York City has a bunch of junior colleges all over the place, right? But for the most part, outside of Monroe, most of them are not, either very well funded, they're not bigger names, anything like that. It doesn't mean there aren't good players there, for sure. But it gets a bad rap locally. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that your bigger program junior colleges, your Indian Hills, your what schools in Kansas, your schools down in Texas, things like that, they're in small towns. And those schools need sports. Like they need sports to survive. Florida is a little unique in that, like, there are some very good programs that the school doesn't really need the sports, but they still support it anyways. New York has not necessarily always taken that approach with things, because they don't need it, because there's 18 million people in the greater metro area. So, their attendance is going to be high regardless of whether they have a basketball team or not. Whereas, like, if you're in a town of 4,000, you need sports because you need the enrollment, right? There's there's junior colleges in New York that have 30, 40,000 students, whether it's online or commuting or whatever. And they go, what's 15 more kids on a basketball team? Like, we don't, and so there's this perception, I think, of New York kids of this is what junior college is. And while there's great programs and great coaches and great players and teams and things like that in the greater New York area, the New York City kids don't have a perspective, I think, of just how good the basketball is when they get out of the city. There's a kid from New York named Ty Foster that came out to Denver and played some high school here, but he's at Western Wyoming right now. I actually watched the first half, and he's over there kicking butt. And I kind of tease Ty Foster because, I mean, he's a 3.8 student and a 26 ACT kid. I mean, he's incredibly smart. And I'm like, hey, do you ever see yourself, going to Western Wyoming Junior College? He's like, nah, bro. Like, I didn't think this was it. And I was like, well, what do you think now? And he's like, I mean, this is high level basketball. Like, this is big time. And so, as kids, it'll be easier now with social media and, the film and, things that kids can see. Kids in New York City can see now, what like a Ty Foster will be able to do. He'll have all kinds of Division I offers out of junior college, and, kids in the city that are going to see that and go, well, shoot, I played ball with him in the city. Maybe I should look at junior college and kind of expand my horizons. And, it's a big move for a New York City kid to say, all right, I'm going where in Wyoming? There's how many people that live there? Like, I got more people on my block than are in that whole town. So, but it's just different. And, The kids have to adapt to that kind of stuff. The
Right.
most successful kids are the ones that are able to just adapt to whatever environment they get put
Right.
into. And junior college helps with that a lot because it's a different environment for sure, for the most part. There's a few here and there that are in bigger cities and things like that you can kind of, I don't know, acclimate a little easier to. But a lot of these kids, this is the first time they've been to some places that are as small as some of these spots are. But it's kind of one of those deals where, like, if you can make it through this, you can make it through a lot. And the ones that focus and put their head down and get through it are the ones that are going to be successful. And the ones that say, "Oh, I can't handle this," well, guess what? You're not going to be able to handle anything at the next level either.
That's very true. I think that's very true, and I think that I think that now with COVID affecting recruiting, in-person recruiting and stuff, players getting extra years and stuff. Some people who were so against JUCO in the past are now looking at it like, okay, that's the only option that's open. But then again, it always was an option. I mean, I can tell you stories, and I know some of these kids right now that are in Division 1 killing, like Saquon Singleton,
Hmm.
New Mexico. I covered him in high school when he was at Monsignor Scanlon, and you know, his journey, like, and the good people around him. Shout out to Cash, Kashif Pratt, Rice High School legend, who helped him get him out of that prep school situation when he was going to post grad and brought him to Hutch.
Yep.
And shout out to the head coach at Hutch who kind of let him know, like, yo, I'm giving you a chance. Like, don't
Yeah.
mess up. And look at him now. He's now doing this thing in the Mountain West at New Mexico. And I think the great thing about JUCO is that it's a big reason why there's so many New York City kids on Division 1 rosters.
Yeah.
That's one reason. I think JUCO, and I think that the talent pool is improving. A lot of kids from the PSAL that did a little post grad or did some JUCO now on high major Division 1 teams. Others, the Catholic League. Shout out to the Catholic League. They're like all over the ACC now.
Yeah.
Straight
Yeah.
up.
New York's been, through this kind of roller coaster of evolution of basketball where it's like,
Yeah.
New York used to be the place, and
Right.
then New York wasn't the place.
Right.
And, now it's kind of coming back again. And I think a lot of that has to do with kids realizing early on that there are bigger opportunities than, it's, hey, D1 or done.
Right.
Right. And when there's the mindset of D1 or done, it really kills a lot of, other than that top little crust of kids, it kills everything below, right?
Right.
Because there's this whole idea of, like, why am I even doing this?
Right.
What am I working towards? And, as kids get a better understanding of what junior college is and a better understanding of what Division 2 and NAIA and, all that is. I mean, there's great Division 2 programs all up and down New York, but
Right.
city kids don't look at those like an opportunity like they should, right? And I think junior college then creates this other pathway that they can maybe wrap their head around, where, it's different, it's unique, it's out there, but they see a lot of success coming out of there now, and I think that's something that just kind of helps drive and thrive. What's going on in the city, which is really no different than what's going on around the world, where a lot of international kids see junior college as an opportunity to break in
Right.
some way, shape or form that doesn't involve going straight to Division 1. That's really no different out of New York and, some of these other larger cities.
Most definitely. Glad that you said that because you know, going back to your point about JUCOs in the New York City area, I think that the fact that there's so many Division 1 programs in the area, they're focused on that. Like,
Yeah.
I know once in a blue moon there's a kid that, like, thinks that that could benefit greatly from JUCO, but thinks that he can easily get into St. Francis, Brooklyn.
Right.
You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Where you could possibly go to JUCO to get your opportunity to play at St. Francis, Brooklyn.
Yep.
But I think that now, since so many players are embracing it and it's going up, I think it's a great thing. There is a name that I think you should know, but he's a Bronx kid. His name is Dante Walker.
Mhm.
He plays for Chipotle in
Yep.
Florida.
Yep. Donnie
Like,
Tyndall down there.
okay, shout out to Dante. Like, I think that shout out to Dante. I think that he's a kid that I've seen around everywhere in these summer tournaments, and like, kind of like always his path is different, but now he's killing at Chipotle.
Mhm.
Keep an eye out for him. So moving right along, let's talk about Gideon George,
Yep.
BYU. You're the first person that put me onto him, and I seen the game he had against St. John's,
Mhm.
and I was like, okay, this kid's pretty good. I was
Yep.
watching on the late night, because I watched on the Fire Stick, um, watching the replay on the ESPN app, and I was like, wow, he's pretty good. So tell me about the story of Gideon George, and you know, tell me why more and more people should, give him his flowers, and why the sky's the limit for him.
Yeah, Gideon's a special kid. So we go around the world and run free camps and try and help kids get to college. We do a lot in regards to trying to fight human trafficking. We do a lot in regards to, just like we do here domestically when we do things in inner cities, try and provide opportunity regardless of a person's circumstances or financial ability. And so when you go to a place like Nigeria, um, it's a whole different world. In an incredibly like beautiful way, and also in an incredibly stressful and a lot of times kind of troubling way. And so we had gone to a city called Owerri, down in the south, which is 1 million people, for the most part living in poverty. And it's an interesting spot. So we had flown into Lagos. New York City is big, right? There's it's 14, 15 million, 18, whatever it is.
Right.
Lagos has 28 million people in it.
Wow.
So you want to talk about big, and there's not much in the way of skyscrapers in Lagos, Nigeria. So everything just goes forever. And so we flew in there and then flew down to Owerri. And so we go to run this camp, and the people that we had kind of arranged to run this with ended up not being the most scrupulous people on the planet. And so Gideon had come down from Minna, which was a 13, 14-hour bus ride away through the heart of Nigeria, which is bonkers. And we're not talking paved roads, right? And so he comes down, and we run the first day, and everybody's doing good, and things like that. And then the next day, everybody's really tired. We're like, all right, we ran you hard yesterday. It's 100 degrees out. It's 100% humidity. We're running this camp for like 6 hours. It's outside, broken concrete court, busted rims, and all this sort of stuff. But we're making do. And come to find out, the people that were running the camp, that own this outdoor facility that we were using, were charging the kids to play in the camp, and hadn't told us. And so, I think if anybody knows me, I generally kind of say what's on my mind, and made maybe a poor decision of losing my crap in a foreign country on somebody that I didn't know. Fortunately, we had some really good security with some big guns that had our backs. But essentially, it turned out that these kids had been sleeping outside because they had given all their money to this facility person to play in the camp. So they didn't have any money to stay anywhere or eat.
Oh, wow.
So, we kind of got that figured out, and took care of that. So Gideon just like, he really stood out in a way. Like scouting basketball over there is tough, because you're never going to be like, all right, that kid right there, like that's a Division I player, because
Right.
most of them have never played organized basketball before. So
Right.
you're looking for something that's different in them that you can work with, that you can teach, that you can build on, things like that. And we've had a lot of success with that through all of our camps. But Gideon really stuck out in that camp as somebody that just had something in him that it didn't matter what it was. I mean, if we just said, hey, you know what, we're going to play football instead of
Right.
basketball, he'd have figured it out. right? Like he'd be a star doing that. And so yeah, I mean, he'd tried to come over before because his brother Samson was playing over at Pitt at the time, but had come over years before. And Gideon hadn't seen him in 4 or 5 years. And so Gideon had been trying to go to the embassy to come over to like a prep school or something as well, and he kept getting denied at the embassy
Wow.
because the visa process is insane. So he'd been denied, I think, 5 times before. He got denied once with us trying to help, and then finally, on the second go around with us, we were able to get him a visa, and he went to New Mexico Junior College. And we're talking about a kid that had not really played much in the way of organized games, hardly at all ever. It was mostly just pickup outdoors, concrete or dirt courts and plywood backboards and things like that. And he showed up in the whack jack, which is arguably the toughest league in the country, and won freshman of the year.
Right.
And was just didn't really know what he was doing. Just outworked everybody, out athleted everybody, out toughed everybody. And so not too long after that, Chris Burgess out at BYU got on him and got Coach Pope on him. And Coach Pope is pretty unique in that, like, it's not a show up, watch a kid play, make a decision, and move on. He went and saw Gideon like 5 or 6 times. And it wasn't, he didn't even play every time. He was hurt for part of it. He'd hurt his foot. So Mark wanted to go down and see him just to see how he acted on the bench, just to see, things like that, that had nothing to do with playing basketball. It was crazy. And so, he flies down to New Mexico multiple times and goes and sees him and talks to him and all that sort of stuff. And really was the one that put in the work. And so Gideon went on his visit to BYU for the Gonzaga game when they beat Gonzaga at the end of the year last year. And, it was funny after the visit, I asked him, I said, okay, well, what was your favorite part of the visit? Expecting him to say, the game, right? It was crazy. There was 20,000 people and whatever. And his answer had nothing to do with the game. It was, I like the fact that they have 12 buckets with shot tracker on it. Like I can get into the gym whenever I want. I've got basically 24-hour access to the gym. I can work out whenever I want. I like the strength and nutrition guy. I'm going to lift a lot of weights there. And, it was all this stuff that had nothing to do with the fancy, the fancy side of basketball. And so he committed there, and yeah, I mean, he's working through stuff as he's learning a new position. They got him playing the 3. And so some nights it's a lot of minutes. Sometimes it's not as many, and he's cranking through, but I mean, he's proving that, his ceiling is pretty high. So, yeah, just kind of trucking through.
I mean, that's amazing. And I gotta, BYU games, they don't promote it as much as others. I don't pay as much attention. I pretty much don't pay much attention because like bombarded, working like all the other games. But I think I gotta check out their schedule and see when they play often, because that game versus St. John's was like a last minute game.
Yeah.
So it was big that I was able to see the replay of it and stuff. And I think he's a very special player. So moving on from that, JUCO to Pro.
Mhm.
I've seen your tweets and you kind of introduced me to some players that were JUCO products that were in the NBA. Some I'd never even heard of. It was like, I'm not sure. What was the guy from? He played for the Spurs. What was his name again?
Francisco Elson. Yep.
Francisco Elson. Okay.
Yep. Played down at Blinn, and he was from the Netherlands originally. Played
Right.
at Cal after Blinn Junior College in Texas. So
Okay. Okay. Cool. Blinn. I know about Blinn. Former coworker. Shout out to Amira Ford, who played at U Albany. She played at. I think she may have played at Blinn. I'm not too sure, but I there's him. I think there's Elson. There's who else? I said Jamal Tinsley. I probably said Nick Van Exel.
yep.
Um, There is
I mean, Sean Marion played at Vincennes.
yes,
You
I
know,
know
the
about
Matrix. Yep. Chris Anderson played at Blinn as well.
okay,
Birdman, and of course you got the big names, the Jimmy Butlers and the Jay Crowders now from, Jimmy played at Tyler, Jay played at Howard,
right,
um, for Mark Adams. And you've got now we've got Jay Scrub on the Clippers that actually got drafted this year straight from junior college.
right,
There, John A. Logan and Michael Mulder's playing well for the Warriors. Played at Vincennes and then went to Kentucky.
okay,
And they're all over the place, man.
all over, and I
Yeah.
think that the I think the JUCO route. I just think that if people are still sleeping on it, then like I don't know, you might be lost personally.
Yep.
Like
Yep. There's a lot of talent out there, and there's so many guys too that even the ones that make it to the NBA and stuff. It's not like they were coming out of high school and people were saying like this is an NBA guy, right?
right,
Like they grew at that junior college and they developed and they turned into somebody that developed the kind of toughness and things like that. I mean, the difference between the guys that are in the NBA and the guys that aren't in the NBA that are playing high level pro somewhere is razor thin, right? Like there's probably a bunch of guys playing high level Euro somewhere that are better than some of the guys that are in the NBA, on the end of the bench. And, there are things like toughness and ability to adapt and stuff like that that kind of differentiates, being that 13th man on a roster. Because in the NBA, there's no room for error, right? Like unless you're a supermax guy, there's no room for error. Right?
right,
You can find yourself out of the league real quick. So
right. And thank you for sharing that because I think that I hope anyone who's going to be watching this soon, when it gets posted, realizes how hard it takes, and if you work hard, it will definitely pay off. So, what is the biggest obstacles you faced while running JUCO Advocate?
it's initially it's honestly a lot of times trying to convince people that what we're doing or why we're doing it is real.
Right,
Yeah, it's kind of it's hard to explain, but like there's a lot of people that say, okay, you've done all this stuff, you do these things or whatever. Okay, now, like, what do you want? That's
right,
why I don't want anything. They're like, no. But what do you want? I don't want anything,
right,
right? Like,
right,
we're doing things differently, and that for sure was an obstacle at first, and it's something we don't deal with as much now because I think we've built a reputation on when we say we're going to do something, we do it, and we say why we're doing something, it's real, and we work very closely with other like-minded people. We're very selective about who we work with and why, and things like that. That's how Nathan LeClaire and I became so close, and then brought our companies together. As Verbal Commits is now under our parent brand and company, and so Nathan runs that, but is a co-owner of the company with me,
okay,
and so we're two like-minded individuals. We sit down and we say, what can we do that's different? I got bills to pay too,
right,
but there is a different way to go about this, and there's a different way to pay those bills. And we're figuring that out. And you put enough like-minded people together that are interested in doing things differently, that are creative. We're going to find a way, and we've done that. And so I'm excited about kind of what we have coming next, because the stuff that we have coming next is next level stuff that's even cooler than what we've done so far. So it's gonna be fun.
nice, nice. And you just answered my last question about what are your goals, and I mean you just said it. So, not to go too further on that, um, let's talk about. All right, so we had to talk about this. What kind of introduced both of us together was back I think in September.
Mhm.
It could be September or not. You was you shared the story about you and others because I found out about Suricata Jawara on Instagram. I covered him in high school, and I know one of his coaches, Christopher Salgado, who's helped a lot of kids in his program go JUCO and then for his name is Glasses. Also goes by the name of Glasses. Shout out to him. He broke the news about Suricata Jawara's heart condition,
Mm-hmm.
and you brought it. He was because he's more on Instagram, but you brought it to Twitter. And during that time, a lot was going on. Glasses is a very passionate person about his players, and Suricata was on one of them. Glasses was going a lot. Just lost a player who was actually head of the JUCO. Rest in peace, Brandon Hendricks. He he heard about the Suricata thing what he was going through, and he shared it. So it kind of affected me in a way because this year was kind of rough for me. Well, last year was kind of rough for me as well. So I'm like, I donated to the cause. I shared the story, put the link in my bio on Instagram. I was really wondering because, like, maybe I cover players from not just New York City, but all other places in the country too. But I'm kind of passionate and partial about the New York City players because this is where I'm from. Not too much of a homer, but you get the drift. But like,
Right.
It kind of hit close on because like I've seen this guy play in high school.
Yeah.
I cross paths with him sometimes. So it's like when I heard about his heart thing, I'm like, nah, man, nah, because like 2020 was full of a lot of deaths. A
Yeah.
lot of deaths that hit the New York City basketball community and so forth. And I'm like, nah, can't afford to have a kid that I've seen play basketball. I'm not gonna say I know the kid too well, but I've seen the kid play basketball often and I've crossed paths with him a few times, and I can't have a kid like him suffer. So, I'm just sharing the link and everything, the story that Coach Sauter posted, and there was a contest. I wasn't even thinking about the NBA Jam Machine. I was like, hey, listen, as long as because I saw how much they was raising the money for, I'm like, listen, as long as this kid gets the help he needs, it's whatever. I'm doing whatever it takes. So, and then I of course I was chosen, but what were your thoughts on it? I mean, when you first heard about Suricata Jawara's um condition, thank God he's back to the team now and he's out of the hospital. But
Yep.
like, what were your thoughts when you first heard about it, and what made you spring into action?
I mean, it's an interesting thing because one of the um, I guess benefits of where we're at now is that we have a platform where we can really help.
Right,
And so, whether it was with the hurricanes down in Lake Charles this year,
right,
or, a kid like Suricata, we try and help as many people as we can, as much as we can, with different things. And that's whether it's getting a college scholarship or helping with a job or, things like that. And so, I mean, I think it's just, we've built this platform. And if we don't use it for things like that,
right.
then we're wasting it.
True.
Is kind of our thoughts on it. And that's what really gets me excited about the growth that we're going to have, and the expansion, and new things that are coming down the pike with verbal commits and stuff like that, where we have this pretty massive platform now, with all things combined to do more good,
Right.
and to get creative with that and find a lot of different ways to help as many people as we can. And so, for something like Suricata, like, I mean, that's a layup. Like, hey, we've got a lot of people that follow us. We got a lot of people that pay attention to what we say. We got to use that for something like that. So
Definitely. And big shout out to Suricata. He's back with the team at Seward County. Shout out to Coach Salter over there in the Seward County Community College out there in the Jayhawk Conference. So, last two questions to wrap up this great interview, season 2 of that JUCO life. let's start off with our first last question. Let's start off with Project Rise. Tell the audience, what is Project Rise about, and what could we expect from that?
So Project Rise is, I'm very much like a just kind of kick the door in kind of guy. Like if I want to go do something, I'm like, all right, how do I go do this? I'm not usually used to asking for permission, and so I kind of took that approach to Project Rise, where there is a wasteland of Black coaches in Division I basketball, and it fluctuates, right? It does this little S curve thing, but it's not something that's trending in the way that it should, and so because we have a lot of relationships, a lot of strong relationships. I know, we can help guys get jobs. And so we've got 10 candidates that are all Black coaches in various levels of whether it be junior college, high school, prep school, post-grad, AAU, whatever. Jobs right now that we think are good candidates for Division I basketball positions, in the next year or two, whether it's as an assistant or a support role or something like that. And so we've paired them up with Division I head coaches as mentors. And we're doing a lot of things like leadership training and emotional intelligence, and some specific things like Amora Morgan is going to do a clinic with us on, writing scout at that level, and, different things like that, and kind of help prepare guys as much as possible with skills and things to take away from this that they can use in those jobs. But also, a lot about basketball is who you know. And so we want to draw as much attention to the good work that these guys do as possible, so that their names get known, connecting them with these mentors. So hopefully these mentors can help, make a phone call for them, and things like that. And so the goal of the whole project is to inject 10 new Black coaches into Division I basketball every year. So.
Right. And I definitely do appreciate that. I know that your initiative, along with other initiatives to help bring more Black coaches to college basketball, will definitely change things, and change is definitely needed. So our last question. JUCO season has started.
Yep.
After so many months, JUCO season has started. And the last question that I have is, do you have like a top 5 performances of opening week?
Ooh, well, the problem is that I railed about this morning. Not everybody's box scores are updated yet, so we're still waiting for some stuff there. And this is only day 3 today, but from opening night, I watched. I watched like 6 or 7 games. So somebody that I'll just do one that I saw that I really enjoyed watching. Is Marshall Kearing at State College of Florida. We did a little interview with him because he's actually an Aboriginal native from Australia. As far as I know, he might be the only in the first 100% Aboriginal kid to play Division I basketball next year when he goes to South Alabama with Richie Riley. The Aboriginal community in Australia has, a pretty rough history. And as far as how they've been treated and things like that. He's such an awesome kid. And I think he had 6 blocks in that game, something like that against Chipola. They weren't able to get it done at the end of the game there. Chipola is going to be very good. Donnie's done a good job of recruiting there. And Jordan Verhulst is a friend, his assistant down there. He's done a great job, getting these kids ready. But, it was cool to see Marshall go out there and just continue to show development and show who he is and how tough he is and things like that. And he's just one of those really cool, unique stories that junior college gets to tell. And so, there's a lot of these kids that we're going to be drawing attention to throughout the year, just like we always do. But, if people really pay attention to those stories, it really makes watching the games even better. It really does, because you end up rooting for kids that you otherwise have no reason to root for, right? You're not a fan of the team or whatever, but you hear a cool story and you really want to see somebody succeed. And so that's something that we like being a part of and being able to share those.
Amazing. So I'm gonna try my best to clear up my schedule and try to look up the kid. But mentioning his history and where he comes from, his origin is big, because I think that a player like that would be special and basically change things for his own community. So
For sure.
It's huge. I looked at some New York area players that have played. Deshaun Davis is one. Um, cool kid. Tough player. He had a good performance in the loss to Kilgore.
Hmm.
Kilgore. He's come a long way. I think he's going to be a killer in the Pac-12 soon. Um, I gotta see if these schools upload their games to YouTube.
Yeah, some of them do.
Some of them do?
Yep, some of them
Okay.
do upload their stuff to YouTube, and there's a lot of live streams out there, and
Right.
games that get saved and archived and stuff like that. Beyond, if you don't have a Synergy account, there's a lot of ways that you can kind of see, um, games out there without having a coach's Synergy account or something.
Dope. So yeah, I gotta get into that. I mean, because I work in education, so um basically, and I'm basically training for a new position soon. So I'm just trying to like find balance and find time, but I'm
For
definitely gonna
sure.
get into those streams, and I'm just gonna like hit I'm just gonna hit guys up and tell them like, yo, send the live streams, and like I'm gonna be like you. Like if a school ain't got no, their games on YouTube, I'm gonna be like, yo, what are you doing? What are you doing? Like,
Yep,
yo,
keep an eye on our Twitter account. We're always retweeting, the live
oh
streams and stuff. So
definitely, man. Because there's guys like Rams, there's guys like other players who are currently in JUCO that are on this show that have been on the show in season one, like Khalil Kamara, Langston Wilson,
yep.
guys like them. I also, try to keep an eye on. Just try to support anybody, whether they've been on my show or not. But this has been a great interview. Um, I was aiming for about 45 minutes, or an hour, but this is great timing and all. I basically have asked all the questions I've asked, and this is just a great interview. I'm glad this interview finally happened. This is supposed to happen like weeks ago, but just getting caught up in stuff. Working at home doing this remote learning thing is has been a distraction.
Yeah.
So, but I'm glad we was able to do it. And to close things out on JUCO life. What are some words of advice you can give to like our viewers? Because we have mostly younger viewers here who watch our show, or any aspiring coaches. Like, what is some advice that you have for them?
I think the biggest thing right now, especially because of the time that we're in, is for everybody to understand that, your circumstances are, they may be difficult, but they're different, but in a lot of ways are the same as a lot of people, right? And everybody's dealing with something right now, and so you've really got to just kind of dig down and find in yourself, if you're a player, if you're a coach, that's trying to make moves that find something in you that's going to keep that drive going. Like, don't give up because things are tough right now.
Right.
There's too much in your future to say, what, it's too hard right now.
Right.
Right. Like, it will be worth it in the end. And that's why I always say, like, Solomon was such a good first relationship for me to have, because we're talking about a kid that went straight into the military out of high school. He's a combat veteran. Like, coaches used to say, like, oh, how's he handle pressure? And I'm like, he was in Iraq and Afghanistan. I think he'll be fine.
Yeah,
Like,
that's more than enough.
you know, the things that he went through getting to junior college, that was really not a fit for him, at first, because of the environment that he came from, and, expectations and different things like that. And, he fought through that. And then he fought through a lot of circumstances, Division I basketball, and he got his master's,
Right.
and, he's doing great. And this mountain of stuff, at any point he could have said, screw this, I'm done. Right.
Right.
And so, for anybody out there that's kind of going through it right now, understand, like, there is another side, and you're just working your way towards that, and use this time now, that as you're overcoming things, to learn as much as you can, to learn as much about yourself as you can,
Right.
to take these different obstacles, figure them out, and use those skills that you develop in figuring out those obstacles for later in life. It's going to pay off. It's just taking one day at a time, man.
Definitely. And thank you for that advice, man. It's great. So that does it for episode 1, season 2 of That JUCO Life. This is Jaquan Bowden here. Brandon Goble, man, thank you again for coming
Yeah, you
on.
bet.
I appreciate it. We're gonna discuss once we're done recording other info that I might need from you. But thank you for coming on this show. And for Brandon Goble, this is Jaquan Bowden. This is That JUCO Life, season 2, episode 1. We out. Peace.